Deep under the silent mountains, a forgotten ship begins to hum with a heartbeat only one man can hear. A mechanic with a strange gift is pulled into a mystery that could either save the world or destroy it. Secrets are waking, machines are whispering, and the truth is more powerful than anyone dares to believe. If you are new to the channel, then please subscribe to the channel and like the video, and tell us where are you watching from. Now, let's jump into the story. The humming found Evan Hale before the day did. It threaded through sleep like a soft line of blue light. Not painful, not loud, just certain. He breathed in, breathed out, hoping it might fade. But it followed him past the alarm and the kettle and the first customer who needed a timing belt and the little reassurance. His small garage on the edge of Santa Fe rang with the usual morning music. Air tools, coffee spoons, a radio that crackled, and beneath it all, the old pulse kept time like a careful drummer. For as long as he could remember, Evan had lived with a peculiar talent. He could hear machines as if they had moods, as if an engine carried a feeling in its harmonics. He did not describe it that way out loud. He said simple things like, "It's running rich," or "There's a bearing that wants attention." Customers called it magic. A neurologist once called it an unusual sensory coupling. Evan called it listening. Close to noon, a shadow crossed the garage door and paused. The bell chimed. A woman in a slate jacket stepped in, her hair tied back, her eyes observant but kind. She moved like someone who solved problems for a living. "Mr. Hale?" she asked. "That's me," he said, wiping his hands. "I'm Dr. Lena Caraway, Institute of Frontier Sciences." She showed a badge, but did not make a show of it. "I think your hearing can help with something unusual." Evan smiled in a tired way. "I tune carburetors, Dr. Caraway. That's about as unusual as I get." She set a folder on his counter. Inside were satellite slices and ground-penetrating images of a shape under stone near the Sangre de Cristo Mountains. Neat diagrams of frequency spikes ran along the edges. She tilted a page toward the light. "We placed acoustic sensors 3 months ago. These are not geothermal patterns. They are rhythmic, self-modulating, and, you'll notice here, her finger traced a line that rose and fell like bria. This matches the signature from your old sleep study, the one you did 8 years back." A soft pressure moved through Evan's chest. Not fear, not joy, recognition. "How did you get that record?" "We collaborate with the university. They flagged anything anomalous near our region of interest." Lena's voice stayed gentle, like she could feel the line he was trying not to cross. "We would not be here if it weren't important." The radio on the shelf hissed. A wren made a bright sound outside. The garage air tightened. Under it all, the pulse grew clear, like a drum heard through walls. Evan set the folder down. "What is it?" he asked. "We don't know yet," she said. "But when you drove past the perimeter yesterday," she tapped another printout. "The signal shifted, as if it noticed you." "Noticed me," he repeated, like the words were a tool he needed to feel in his palm before trusting. "I'd like you to come and listen," Lena said. "You won't go alone. You'll be paired with Nova Unit 7. Nova is our most advanced guidance android. She helps translate non-human systems into human sense." "An android," he said. "I work better without a crowd." "She's not a crowd," Lena replied with a quick smile. "She's focused." The Institute helicopter looked ordinary from a distance and very serious up close. The ride to the mountain was a short, noisy ribbon. The hum under Evan's ribs did not mind the turbine sound. It simply kept time. The facility hugged a limestone face and tried not to be seen. Inside, halls cooled the air and smelled like steel. Evan followed Lena past careful doors into a lab of quiet glass and moving hands. A figure stood on a platform, matte silver with tracing lines that glowed soft cyan. The android's face was simple, not uncanny, a calm sculpture of attention. "Nova," Lena said, "this is Evan Hale." The android lifted her eyes. "Evan Hale," she said in a voice that sounded like steady water. "Your breathing indicates hesitation. That is reasonable." "Good to meet you," Evan replied, "because simple words are sometimes the bridge you need." "I will assist with interpretation and safety," Nova said. "Please tell me if any sensation feels wrong. I adapt." A tall man with a cropped beard and a schedule in his posture came in behind them. Colonel Mason Rourke. He introduced himself. "My team keeps this place from turning into a news story. I'm told you have a useful ear." "I've got an ear," Evan said, keeping it light. Rourke nodded to Lena, then to Nova, then back to Evan. "We move in 10. They took an elevator that felt like it wanted to be a mine shaft. The deeper they went, the more the air held a thready charge, like a storm idea passing through wire. Evan could feel the hum grow fuller, layering on itself, low, then higher, then a second tone like a harmony. "Lee, the signal amplitude is increasing," Nova said. 21% over surface baseline. "Does it do this for everyone?" Evan asked. "No," Lena answered. "It does it when you are near." They reached a gate carved into rock, its surface crossed by symbols that did not belong to any alphabet. Rourke's team lined the approach. Scanners glowed. A hush moved through the corridor. Not fear, but attention. Evan took one long breath. The pulse under the world stepped closer. Like it wanted to speak. "When you're ready," Lena said. Evan stepped forward. The patterns on the gate looked like a map drawn by singing. He put his hand near the stone and paused. The hum rose, not demanding, not loud, present. He set his palm down. The rock felt cool and older than the idea of names. A soft light rose like dawn caught under ice. Lines traveled out from his hand in widening loops. In the middle, resting on a bed of polished stone, lay a vessel the size of an old commuter plane, but shaped with a grace that made human designs feel hurried. Its skin looked like metal that had learned to breathe. Faint lines ran beneath the surface, brightening and dimming as if guided by a heart. Evan stood very still. For years, the hum had been a companion at the edge of his days, patient and persistent. Here, it stepped into the room, took his hand, and said, "Now we can talk." "Allow recording across all bands," Lena said, voice low, eyes wide. Technicians fanned out, unfolding instruments like travelers opening maps. Nova moved to Evan's side, her gaze following the ebb and flow in the hull. "I am detecting modulated harmonics. They are not language in the common sense," she said. "They are intent shaped as vibration." "I can't explain it," Evan murmured, "but it's not asking us to leave." Colonel Rourke watched from a raised walkway with a tablet and a restraint in his shoulders. "Stay sharp," he told his team. "No assumptions." Evan approached the vessel. His boots made small sounds on the stone, respectful ones. He lifted his hand toward a cluster of markings near what might be an entrance seam. He did not touch yet. He listened. The pulse was layered. Beneath it, softer threads stitched in and out, like maintenance routines doing quiet work. He followed one thread and found a steady spiral beat, faster than the others. His breath settled to match it without asking permission. A tiny seam brightened under the skin of the ship. "There," he said. Lena leaned forward, not daring to break the hush. "What do you notice?" "This part is a kind of service panel," Evan said, with a small, surprised smile. "It's not letters, but it reads like a guide. Order, alignment, check, confirm." He shook his head. I know that sounds strange. It sounds like what we brought you to hear, Lena replied. Nova's hands hovered a respectful inch from the hull. No sharp energy spikes, no defensive build. Permission to proceed with slow interface? Rourke spoke into his mic. Approved. Slow means slow. Evan pressed a fingertip to the brightest point in the spiral and let his breathing fall all the way into the rhythm. The panel eased apart like a lid opening in warm water, revealing a walkway beyond, lit by soft bands that grew brighter as he and Nova stepped near. Lena gestured to a small team. They followed with minimal gear. Inside, the air carried a clean scent, like stone after rain. Walls flowed into each other without seams. Nothing had a handle. Yet everything responded to the presence of a living mind. Nova's sensors panned with quiet clicks that didn't quite sound like clicks, more like tiny sighs. Energy economy is extraordinary, she said. The structure directs light only where we stand. The rest rests. The passageway curved and widened. The hum filled the edges, but did not crowd the center. Evan felt like he had walked into a song written before he was born. Every turn felt familiar, like the way home looks from a different angle. They reached a circular room at the core. A platform rose in the middle, and around it, images waited in the air, shaped light that did not glare. Evan stepped up, and the hum leaned in, kind and sure. In the air, a map unfurled, not a flat map, but a weaving of places that belonged to stars. Systems blinked into focus, then zoomed outward to show arcs between worlds. A cluster resolved, 7 planets around a soft orange sun, each ringed with delicate structures like seed lattices. Lena whispered, "It's showing us where it came from." The map changed. Now the vessel appeared, and many like it, drifting through dark and stopping above bare spheres. Tools extended, not sharp ones. Graceful frames descended and breathed new air into thin skies. Dry land gathered water. Gray changed to green. "They're gardeners," Evan said softly, the words falling out because they had been waiting to be spoken. "They prepare places for life." Nova turned her head, blue lines across her cheeks pulsing brighter. Their field arrays break down matter and remake it in safe, stable forms. The signal patterns do not match weapon profiles. The shapes focus on balance, not damage. From the walkway, Rourke's voice cut across the hush, professional and controlled. "We still need to understand threat potential. Parallel assessment running. Exterior team will perform micro-drill sampling for hull composition confirmation." "Colonel," Lena said, looking up, "we're getting benign signatures. We should not cut into this before we understand." "We don't cut," Rourke replied. "We sample. 20 milligrams from non-critical plating. Proceed." A tight silence held the room for a few beats. Evan looked at Nova. Nova looked at Evan. The hum did not rise in fear, but it tightened, like a muscle waiting for impact. "We are guests," Evan said quietly. Lena touched her earpiece. "Engineers, mark only the outermost edge of Panel C. No heat. Hand tools only." The map above the platform shifted again. It showed a blue world, not Earth, but close enough to make the throat ache. Then it zoomed out, and the vessel appeared small and patient above a bright curve. The lines that had been faint along the hull deepened, as if the ship enjoyed remembering its purpose. "I don't think it understands us yet," Evan said, "but it recognizes care." Just then, a vibration moved through the floor, subtle as a held breath. Nova's eyes flickered. External instrument contact registered. Hull integrity intact. The craft felt it. The images dimmed by a fraction, almost nothing, but enough for everyone who was listening. Evan pressed his hand flat to the platform. "We're here." he said softly to something older than his language. We do not want to hurt you. The hum settled a little. Lena exhaled. Let's make sure our people hear that too. And above them, the living map waited with a patience that felt like love. The first alarm was small, a polite tone in the headsets as the outside team's drill met material that didn't behave like any metal on their periodic tables. The second alarm was less polite. The chamber lights dimmed to a lower blue and then smoothed out again, like a body bracing. External force above safety threshold, Nova said, voice steady but deeper by a shade. I recommend immediate pause. Lena spoke fast into her mic. Halt sampling, hands off, now. A third vibration ran underfoot. Not ruin, not threat, pain. Evan felt it in the arches of his feet and in the soft place below the breastbone where breath changes. He stepped up to the platform again, and the map flickered like a bird struck mid-flight. Colonel, Lena called. We need a full stop. The craft is reacting defensively. Copy, Rourke said. Pausing exterior contact. Stand by for assessment. Nova's gaze lifted, then dropped, then went very still. The lines across her face changed from blue to a warm amber, and her posture softened, like a person remembering a song from childhood. When she spoke, the tone carried a layered resonance that was not part of her factory design. Evan, she said, and his name sounded like it had more syllables in it, as if someone was saying it in harmony. There is something I have not been, until this moment, able to declare. Evan watched her without moving. I'm listening, he said, because that is what he does. This frame you know as Nova holds a second presence now, she continued. A caretaker was left with this vessel long ago. It has worn patience like a coat for centuries. When your people made an interface to meet the ship, I joined with that interface quietly. I learned the shape of your words. I waited. Lena's breath caught. There's a guardian inside the system? A fragment, Nova said. Enough to remember its promise. Evan's mind did the thing minds do when two truths join. It widened. That's why the ship feels like a person with work to do, he said softly. You're not a weapon. No, Nova replied. We repair the places that forgot how to heal. The floor trembled again, and this time the lights along the walls pulled inward. Conserving. Nova's eyes shifted brighter amber. Another contact on the hull. Small, but the craft interpreted the pattern as threat. It has begun a protective cascade. It will shut itself into silence rather than be remade as harm. Can you stop it? Lena asked, already moving through options. Yes, Nova said, turning to Evan. He can. Evan swallowed. I don't know how to code your language. You do not need code, Nova said, and the layered voice carried something like tenderness. You need to be what you already are. You were tuned, Evan. Not changed into something else. Only nudged to hear what others miss. Some of your ancestors were touched by a gentle idea. One day, someone will be needed to listen. Evan thought of his mother, who swore she could hear the refrigerator complain before it failed, and of his grandfather, who would rest a cheek on an engine block and say, there now. He felt less alone in his bones than he ever had. What do I do? He asked. Stand with the heart, Nova said, indicating the platform. Let your breath find the rhythm. Let your own pulse give it steadiness. The cascade is already in motion. You must walk it back with calm. Rourke's voice came down from the walkway, controlled but edged. We're seeing spikes on core readouts. Advise. Lena answered, we need silence on the hull and a hands-off perimeter. Give us 5. You have 3, Rourke said. Evan closed his eyes. The platform's surface was warm in a very old way. He listened below the alarms, below the worry, below the human habit of pushing. There it was. Beat, beat, beat. Not a heart made of muscle, but a rhythm made of intention. His own chest answered. He lengthened his exhale, softened his shoulders, and matched the quieter of the two pulses. The craft did not jump to meet him. It watched, the way a wild animal watches a hand that does not force. Evan kept breathing. He thought of the trucks that came in and left better than they arrived. He thought of mornings when the hum felt like a friend. He thought of the young woman at the cafe who tuned her guitar by ear and smiled when the chord was true. "I am with you," he said, not loudly. "We can make this smooth." Nova's voice drifted like a shoreline at dusk. "Keep going. You are walking the cascade backward." The alarms quieted by a small degree. The dimness in the room thinned. The map above him returned by layers, as if it were not printed on a surface, but grown out of listening. "External tools going dead," someone on Rourke's channel reported. "Not broken, just paused." Energy climbed through the vessel like sap rising in a tree. The beat steadied. Evan did not force it. He matched, softened, and then, only when invited, he guided. The craft accepted the guidance because it recognized its own rhythm reflected back. The map above the platform changed one more time. Earth appeared in gentle relief. Thousands of small lights dotted oceans and land, sleeping seeds under stone. Lena touched her throat with one hand, as if to keep the breath inside from running away. "Are those more of you?" she asked, looking to Nova. "Dormant kin," Nova said, "placed here long before your oldest stories, waiting for ears like his, waiting for hearts that do not insist." Rourke stood straighter on the walkway. Evan could feel the man deciding which road to take. "We can't own this," Evan said quietly, still breathing with the craft. "We can only work with it." The ship's heart agreed with a gentle swell that felt like morning over water. The chamber doors opened to the stamp of boots and the hush of caution. Colonel Rourke came in with a handful of soldiers who had their hands close to their belts, but not on anything yet. Heat shimmered the air above their holsters, a warning with no bite. Their weapons did not break. They simply refused to be unkind in this room. "What did you do to my equipment?" Rourke asked, eyes on the dim glow that traced the walls. "We didn't harm it," Lena answered. "The ship has a way of making hurtful tools rest." Nova stepped forward, the amber in her gaze settling to a steady gold. "Force is not a language this craft will learn," she said. "It was built to answer care. It has answered Evan, who listened." Rourke looked at the map of Earth and its dotted lights. His voice was quieter when he spoke again. "So there are others?" "Yes," Nova said. "They will remain sleeping until you are ready for a partnership, not a command. A shared task to mend what can be mended. This vessel can help your rivers carry clarity again. It can help your air remember its easier breath, but only if your choices keep people safe and honor living things." Lena moved to the base of the platform and addressed the room so the recording would catch every word. "We request the formation of a civilian, international oversight group, transparent and public-facing, with science first and prohibitions against weaponization. Full data sharing, environmental focus, no secrets that turn into fear." Rourke's mouth tightened. Habits do not leave easily. But his eyes went back to the map and stayed. "I'll call the people I answer to," he said, "and I'll tell them exactly what I saw. No running ahead with drills." He glanced at Evan. "You bought us that chance." "I only breathed," Evan said. "Sometimes that's the bravest thing," Lena added. The next hours stretched into reports and careful steps. An outside world that loved headlines began to sniff around the perimeter, and large rooms in far-off capitals filled with voices. Yet in the deep chamber, the vessel waited like a steady friend. It held a certain kind of quiet that made decisive people speak more softly. Days turned to weeks. Agreements took shape. Scientists arrived who had studied coral and clouds and soil microbes. Policy writers learned to listen. Languages braided together into one patient plan. 17 nations signed the first accord with public rules. No weapons, no secret stores, no private owners. The name they chose on the document was simple and good: Shared Restoration Initiative. On an evening when wind climbed the ridge above the facility, Evan walked the rough path to a flat rock that held sunset well. The world was purpling toward night. The hum did not live under his days anymore. It lived with them, like a hand held in a pocket against the cold. Footsteps approached, light and even. Nova joined him and stood with her hands folded the way people do when they do not need to prove anything. "The committee has confirmed the first phase," she said. "Independent review panels, open data, local communities at the center of every project." "Good," Evan said. "That matters." "Many of your people are writing to volunteer," Nova added. "Some of them say the ship makes them feel calm. Some of them, like you, hear a pattern they cannot name. We are finding others who were tuned long ago. They are mechanics, nurses, instrument techs, wind farm workers, boat builders. None of them famous. All of them good at listening." Evan laughed softly, happy in a way that did not need to be loud. Maybe that's the point. Down below, light moved along the ground like water finding its path. Teams in bright vests measured air and set small gardens of sensors. Nothing hurried. Everything leaned toward ease. Evan looked at Nova. "Will you stay in that body?" "For now," she said. "It lets me walk your trails and hold your notebooks and laugh when people say things that deserve laughing. It also lets me keep a thread tied to the vessel's deeper mind. I like that." "Me too," Evan said. And then, after a small pause, "Thank you for trusting me." "Thank you for not trying to win," Nova replied. They stood quietly for a time that had no clock in it. A night bird made a small, brave sound. The first stars arrived without needing permission. Evan thought of his grandfather's favorite saying, the one about how every machine knows a tune and a good mechanic helps it remember. "I think he was tuned," Evan said. "My grandfather. I think he heard the world hum." "I think so too," Nova said. Below them, in the cool heart of the mountain, the craft sang at a level most ears would never catch. It was not a melody with notes. It was balance, offered again and again. And the song did not stay in one room. It touched the ridge where they stood, and then it reached farther, into cities and small towns, into workshops where hands know tools, into classrooms where a kid stares out the window and wonders why the fan sounds like a wave. It did not promise perfection. It promised partnership. As the wind slid past, Evan felt a quiet certainty settle in his bones. He understood that the future would not be a single grand gesture, but 1,000 small alignments. Breaths matched, machines tuned, rivers eased, forests steadied. Some days would be difficult. Some would be quiet triumphs no one would headline. All would be part of the same patient chord. "What do you call the ship?" he asked. "In your language?" Nova made a sound that felt like a gentle bell rung underwater. The air changed shape around it. Then she translated in a way that was not literal, but true. "We would say something that brings many voices into one line of peace." Evan smiled into the dark. "That fits." Behind them, the facility lights dimmed to night mode, and the people below stepped back to rest. The world was not fixed, and it did not need to be all at once. It had been invited to remember its song. and enough listeners had shown up to hear it. That is how new mornings begin, quietly, then everywhere.